Good evening. Welcome to our 100th episode of California Today. I'm Ling Zhang. Here are just some of the important stories that we have for you tonight. A California lawmaker introduced a bill to change California's status as a sanctuary state. The call for change follows a murder-suicide shooting in the capital just about 1 month ago that left the 3 young girls dead. A school district in Southern California is considering banning critical race theory from the classrooms. We'll listen to some of the definitions that the theory would require teachers to instruct students on. And a now 70-year-old kidnapper in California may be paroled. He was arrested after kidnapping a bus full of children in 1976 and holding them for ransom. A state lawmaker is working to repeal California's sanctuary state law. His move comes in the wake of a shooting last month that took the life of 3 young girls.
California Assemblyman Kevin Kiley introduced a bill earlier this week to reverse the sanctuary state law. He introduced Assembly Bill 1708 following a murder-suicide involving a father who was in the country illegally and his 3 daughters earlier this month. Kiley told the Epoch Times that the impacts of this law have been devastating and tragic. The state's sanctuary law, Senate Bill 54, was passed into law in 2017. It prevents law enforcement's ability to contact the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, about illegal immigrants being released from jail. The man involved in the shooting, 39-year-old David Mora Rojas, had been released from jail 1 week prior to killing his daughters and a chaperone. He was arrested for assaulting a police officer. The shooting took place on February 28th. Mora Rojas was arranged to visit his daughters at a supervised meeting at the non-denominational place of worship, the church in Sacramento. Governor Gavin Newsom spoke out against gun violence in the wake of the shooting. It was later determined that Mora Rojas used an unregistered ghost gun. Kiley blames the law for having prevented law enforcement from contacting ICE about Mora Rojas. He said the deaths could have been prevented. Kiley added that the sanctuary law is intended to protect only criminals. The bill to repeal the sanctuary state law will likely be heard this spring. Daniel Hall, NTD News, California.
A Southern California school district is considering banning critical race theory. In a special board meeting, trustees discussed the detailed definitions that the theory would teach students.
The Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School Board held a special meeting on March 23rd to discuss a resolution to halt the teaching of critical race theory, or CRT. Leandra Blades, a trustee on the school board, is pushing for the ban. She told the Epoch Times, "A lot of people are leaving and going to charter schools and private schools for traditional learning curriculum that doesn't teach CRT." The school board went through multiple CRT teaching points and definitions that are up for ban.
A person's race determines their moral character and makes them responsible for past transgressions of that race. Because of this, some people should be treated differently or discriminated against because of their race.
I just have to say flat out, I've just never heard that as something stated, that your morals are based on your race.
I have not either.
Yeah, I just never, I don't understand the purpose of that here, but evidently, according to some source of critical race theory, it is thought to be the case.
Other points discussed students ranking people based on characteristics like race, sexual identity, and religion. The text defined traits like work ethic as racist.
Traits such as work ethic or devotion to duty and obligations are inherently racist. I have not seen that in CRT, so I disagree.
This one, I disagree. I don't know, my mind went to work ethic. I've never heard anything associated work ethic with race. But moreover, what do we do in our careers classes when we talk about the importance of work ethic?
Blades began her attempt to ban CRT late last year after receiving complaints from high school students about papers they had to write based on their teachers' political beliefs. She said that students who didn't share their teacher's opinion got marked down. Despite her opposition about CRT, Blades said she doesn't oppose teaching about Jim Crow laws, displacement of Native Americans, segregation, or slavery. The attorney for public school districts, Todd Robbins, said the resolution needed more clarity on consequences of a teacher promoting CRT discussion in the classroom. He said without enforcement guidelines, the resolution could be declared unconstitutional in court.
Authorities announced that an inmate was attacked and killed by 2 other inmates on Saturday. Officials are investigating the incident and treating it as a homicide.
The attack took place at California State Prison, Sacramento on Saturday. According to the state's Corrections and Rehab Department, 33-year-old Nathan Marcus was attacked by Tyler Yates and Gregory Roach while on one of the recreation yards. The department stated California State Prison Sacramento staff used chemical agents to quell the incident and performed life-saving measures on Marcus. Their efforts were unsuccessful and he was pronounced deceased at 2:38 p.m. Marcus was sentenced to prison in 2013. The 2 people that attacked him are ages 27 and 33 and have been rehoused into a segregation unit. Officials are investigating the death as a homicide. The high-security prison is located in Folsom. It houses over 1,700 inmates and employs about 1,700 people.
A 70-year-old kidnapper in San Francisco was recommended for parole after being incarcerated since 1976. Parole Commission says he is no longer a threat to society after he kidnapped a bus full of children and demanded millions in ransom money.
Parole commissioners recommended on Friday the parole for the last of 3 men convicted of hijacking a school bus in 1976. The bus was full of school children and the men demanded a $5 million ransom. The 2 commissioners decided the 70-year-old Frederick Woods is no longer a threat to society. He has been denied parole 17 times before, but Governor Gavin Newsom can still reject the parole recommendation. Woods' accomplices were paroled in 2012 and 2015. The 3 men, who came from wealthy Bay Area families, kidnapped 26 children and their bus driver. They buried the bus in an underground bunker east of San Francisco. The victims dug themselves out in less than 2 days' time. All 3 were initially sentenced to prison for the rest of their lives. But an appeals court later reduced their sentences to life with the possibility of parole. They planned for over a year to ransom the children for $5 million from the State Board of Education.
Another Bay Area news outlet is the recent victim of crime. This time it was an entire office. Property was lost, but fortunately no injuries were reported.
The city of Oakland has seen a few recent incidents of news crews being robbed and attacked. However, this time it was a newspaper office. Employees at the Oakland Post came in on Thursday morning to find their offices ransacked. The paper's editor, Paul Cobb, told Mercury News that fortunately nobody was hurt during the crime. The paper's business manager said they estimate a loss of about $15,000 in property and damages. The Oakland police said they are still investigating the incident and no arrests have been made so far. The Oakland Post is where slain journalist Chauncey Bailey worked as editor when he was assassinated in 2007. Bailey was killed by the former leader of Your Black Muslim Bakery for an investigative story the journalist was working on. Earlier this month, a portion of the street the Oakland Post is located on was named Chauncey Bailey Way in the journalist's honor. Jason Blair, NTD News, California.
Coming up, grocery store workers throughout the southern half of California have authorized their unions to go on strike. The move comes after a vote last week, and workers may begin to picket if the upcoming negotiations don't go their way. More of a much-needed storm is coming to the south of the state. We'll look at expected rain and snow, and also what to watch out for. And a newly opened Bay Area restaurant made a large donation to local police. We'll find out why the donation was made and what this Korean restaurant is serving up for guests. That and much more here on California Today. Following the U.S. Census being published, similar housing statistics are out for now, but for a much different species, rats. Two California cities that have the highest number of resident loss in absolute number and percentage during the pandemic also make the top 5 list of the rattiest cities in America. Despite its recent human population loss due to domestic migration, Los Angeles has another population-related issues to deal with. The city is now considered one of the rattiest cities in America. According to data from Orkin's list, Los Angeles ranked number 2 with the most rat infestations, following Chicago, which has been number 1 for the 7th consecutive year. San Francisco saw 6.7% of the human population decrease during the pandemic, according to the U.S. Census, while it came in at number 5 for its rodent population. The 120-year-old pest control company Orkin ranked major cities by the number of rodent treatments performed from September 2020 to September of 2021. Orkin says the pandemic-driven closure of restaurants forced the rodents to find new food sources. Without food waste to consume, these pests are seen spreading to new areas and showing more aggressive behavior. But here are 5 practical tips Orkin offers to keep these unwanted guests from visiting your home. They suggested keeping food stored, clear out clutter, keep clean landscaping, inspect the inside and outside of your house, and look for any ways the rats can get in. Grocery store employees in Southern California have authorized their union to go on strike. Labor discussions will continue in the coming days, but if they don't, the workers may begin picketing supermarkets.
Thousands of grocery workers throughout California voted last week to authorize their union to strike. Though a strike has not been confirmed, the union now has member support to begin a strike if labor negotiations make no progress. About 47,000 workers from 7 United Food and Commercial Workers local unions, ranging from Central California down to the southern border, cast ballots. The workers are employed at over 500 stores. Employees work at Ralph's, Albertsons, and its subsidiaries Vons and Pavilions. Union officials announced earlier this month that contract talks had stalled. A 3-year-old labor contract between the unionized grocery workers and Southern California supermarkets expired March 7th. Grocery employees are continuing to work under the terms of the previous contract. Union officials are asking for a $5 per hour wage increase, sufficient work hours, and higher safety standards. The union said the stores offered a 60-cent per hour wage increase. Contract negotiations are scheduled to resume on Wednesday, March 30th.
Sadly, one of California's iconic redwood trees is no longer standing. The pioneer tree at Samuel P. Taylor State Park fell on Thursday afternoon after being engulfed in flames that morning. The pioneer tree was about 200 feet tall and was one of the state park's few remaining old-growth coastal redwoods. Its body had been hollowed out by previous wildfires, but younger redwoods nourished its root system. California State Parks Director Armando Quintero said the loss of the beloved tree was devastating. He said, "I saw the collapsed tree in person and know how much it pains all of us who treasure these ancient giants who have lived thousands of years." The fire was reported about 11:25 a.m. The Marin County Fire Department contained the fire and are investigating the cause. No other injuries were reported. The tree previously stood in the Samuel P. Taylor State Park, just north of San Francisco. California received lots of rain on Monday morning. The National Weather Service issued a thunderstorm warning for Californians. NTD's David Lamb reports.
In an afternoon announcement, the NWS expects a thunderstorm over Southern California through Monday night, stating, "Be aware of the potential for thunderstorms and small hail. Heavy snow will occur above 6,000 feet. The NWS forecasts up to 1 to 2 inches of mountain rain and slightly less in the valleys and coasts. Winds can range from 25 to 45 miles per hour. The storm may bring slick roads with traffic delays, along with heavy downpours and minor flooding. Minor mud and debris flows near recent burn scars are possible. A flash flood advisory was issued for wildfire burn scars. Hazardous crosswinds can also impact high-profile vehicles. And along the ocean, high surfs and strong rip currents are possible. The Central Coast can see waves as tall as 10 feet high. By mid-Monday morning, moderate to heavy rain moved across LA counties with a rate of up to half an inch per hour. As of Monday, the snowpack level measured at 39% of its average for this time of the year. A wet December in California allowed for snow levels to be more than 200% of normal at the start of 2022, but the packs have been melting in California's environment. Consecutive months of little rain across much of the state has officials calling for continued water conservation amid the ongoing drought. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Now to NTD's Thomas Christian for an update on sports.
The United States, Australia, France, Denmark, Spain, New Zealand, Great Britain, and Japan. All countries here vying to take the Mubadala Sailboat Grand Prix here at the San Francisco Bay. Behind me, spectators are ready for this world-class exhibition in sailboat racing. The event resumed for the first time since pandemic lockdowns, and races were held over the weekend. In a few interviews with ex-sailors sitting on the sidelines, we got to understand a bit more about the present of sailing as it came to the bay.
Pretty amazing to see how much sailing has changed with foils over the last, 5 or 10 years or so. And the speeds they get, it just makes everything really, really exciting. And especially here in the San Francisco Bay, you get such crazy water, wind, tides, all these kind of challenging conditions, which makes racing really, really interesting and fun, but also super challenging.
So this is a pretty epic day for Chrissy in that it's blowing consistent. There are bubbles, but it's going to be a nice windy day, put it that way.
What are you looking for out of the boaters here in terms of navigating these conditions? Is there a different sort of approach that you're having to take here?
I think reading the tides, reading the tides period is gonna play into who gets off the starting line, who absolutely gets to come close to winning the race.
A crazy day of races on the bay saw collisions between France and New Zealand and Spain and the USA, while 2 races were abandoned and restarted, including the grand final itself, due to a whale entering the race course. Day 1 of the competition saw Great Britain take first race in a day 1 where many of the other top finishers had already qualified for the grand final. Denmark and Japan took races 2 and 3 of the first day, but not without drama, as multiple in-the-water collisions occurred as the boats jockeyed for position. As the standings tallied up, the boats entered the water for day 2 of the competition on Sunday, which saw 4 races take place. Qualifying races 4 and 5 were won by New Zealand and Australia respectively, with each team trading high finishes like blows in a boxing match. These races set the tone for the Grand Prix race, the final opportunity for another team to creep into the grand final and steal the whole show. The crowd roared as the semifinal match, named after the tournament itself, was underway. Australia took first place, followed by Great Britain and Japan. Great Britain's surge in race finishes at this event was extremely impressive, but not enough to make up for ground lost earlier in the season. Instead, Australia, Japan, and the United States each fought their way to the top for the final race of the event and of the season. Despite losing in the final, it was incredible that the United States even managed to race at all, having suffered serious hull damage when the Spanish crashed into their boat during the opening race of the day. But despite rapid repair work ensuring they could race and a huge number of fans cheering them on from the shore, the United States only managed to grab a third-place finish, continuing the record of never having actually won a Sail GP event. Instead, it was Australia, who celebrated their back-to-back successes. However, they must also start preparing for their title defense, with their next season starting in just over a month, with the Bermuda Sail Grand Prix taking place in mid-May. Congratulations to the victor. They are now just $1 million richer. Reporting out of the San Francisco Bay Area, Thomas Christian, NTD News, California Today.
And that's all for tonight. You can join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. If you have any news tips or ideas for our show, or you just want to let us know how we're doing, our email is california.today@ntd.com. I'm Ling Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.